then we had talked before about how like I don't think I would have rocked it like that if I was in charge of Monsanto. I would have just changed the name like Blackwater did a bunch of times. But I mean, just from what you said, it seemed like it was a lot more innovative than we thought. And I think like from the outside, Whole Foods was a lot more conservative on the inside than I think people would have thought. I mean, the Amazon thing made perfect sense to me when it went down.
Really?
Yeah.
Like not a surprise to you?
No, and honestly, I kind of respect the move in a weird sort of way because John Mackey, I've met him a few times and I got to interview him. He's like a real deal genius, but like a troubled genius kind of. He's a weird dude, like all super Ayn Rand fans are. Like you don't get this like yogi Ayn Rand Venn diagram thing that he is without like some pretty original thought. And for a long time, there were all these conventional grocery stores that were just always nipping around at the edges, like always trying to buy. And then there was that activist group, the Janet Investors Group, and they were made up of like a type of person who I find deplorable, which is somebody who's already made all their money. They made their money doing evil shit, and they become vegan late in life, and it changes their whole outlook on everything, and they get religion on it, and then they think they could do it better than other people. So they kind of like were launching this like activist takeover. They wanted to force a sale to Kroger. And then I think John Mackey's perspective was like he's been in opposition to those people his entire life. Like the conventional grocery chains stood in his way the whole time. And then when it flipped over and like you can get organic everything at Target now and stuff, I think it's awesome. Like, cause Target's close to my house. I go shop there, but I could just see him selling the Amazon, like talking to Bezos and being like, you know what? Fuck these people. Like we're going to destroy everything that conventional groceries stood for. And it's interesting, like, especially since like when they bought Whole Foods, their stock price jumped up about the same amount that they paid for Whole Foods. So they pretty much got Whole Foods for free. Like just a baller move, you have to kind of respect it.
So I don't know if I ever had told you this, but I was doing a project internally at Monsanto with my buddy Rob Long, and we were asked, hey, how would you disrupt Monsanto? This is a super innovative place. So they would play these games.
That's such a cool idea. That's such a cool.
And so
I would love to work on that.
So Rob and I were invited to go up against a room of tech people, and we had to present our idea ahead of time. And first we said, we think Google might try and kind of vertically integrate part of food. And I won't go into our details of our crazy plan. And then a couple days later, we were like, no, we think it actually would be Amazon. And so we laid out this plan. And the night before we were supposed to do the exercise, the leaders were like, we think this is too unrealistic. We don't think that Amazon will do that. And we had gone so far as to say, imagine that Amazon vertically integrates like the same way that Costco vertically integrates their chicken, where they actually have their own growers, they send them the chicks, they raise them to specification, and then bang, the Costco chicken shows up. We were like, imagine if Amazon did that, but for everything. And then they started having a playlist of food where you sign up for Taco Tuesdays and they send you the food for that, and you sign up for different playlists. And they were like, we don't think that'll ever happen. And then they let us do it kind of as a game, and we totally destroyed everyone because nobody could come up with a way to stop it.
That's what it's going to be. Like, have you ever seen Idiocracy? Like, there's the giant Costco, and it's like, this is how we all ended up working at Costco. Like everybody's jobs get destroyed. I know people who are bartenders who are looking for jobs at Whole Foods, or who used to work at Whole Foods, went to tech, lost their jobs, and now are going back to Whole Foods. It's just a big, weirdly stable industry, groceries. People have to eat.
Well, and now we live in an even more bizarre world, because something like a third to a half of all the calories that people were eating in the world were done at restaurants, and that has become way lower. Yeah. Did you guys, during coronavirus, did you continue to eat at restaurants and have pickup, things like that?
My wife's like a hardcore vegan, so it is oftentimes like there's not that many restaurants we both enjoy, so we had this like little stable rotation of like 4 places that we would order from, and we just did. And we try to get on that like saving money Dave Ramsey kick, so we do a lot of cooking at home. So it definitely, we don't really go out that much like we didn't before, but like years ago we were like out every night. We lived in this great food neighborhood in San Francisco, and you could just like spin a globe, touch a country, and go find that cuisine within like a couple blocks.
It blows my mind that you just mentioned Dave Ramsey. That was like one of the most important things to ever happen to me, was to come across Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, people like, I'm kind of like, in my like friend circle, I read a lot of books, and some people are like, oh man, like recommend a book. What's the book that changed your life? It's like Total Money Makeover has had more influence on my life than any single other book I've ever read.
Yeah, the debt snowball, all the ways you should think about like taking on debt, how to understand money is like, for guys like what I think you and I have a lot of similarities. You could be really high on your verbal ability and your ability to think creatively and abstractly. But a lot of times the numbers, it's not like you couldn't sit down and do them. It's that it doesn't make intuitive sense. And that's what he was so good at. It's like giving people an intuitive sense of how money works.
Yeah, and then he brings it down to like just like basics, and like the way he explains things on his show, on his podcast, is how I aspire to explain things in copy. Like I want people to just get it right away, trust where it's coming from, and ultimately like have a positive result from it. I don't know what it would be like to work for that company, but in my fantasy, like I go work for this company in Nashville just because it made such a difference for me. And it's made, even like the ideas trickling out to my friends, like the number of people that I've talked out of getting leases in their cars, it has to be at least like 10 at this point. Just huge shit like that. And following that stuff, like I followed the whole thing. I have an emergency fund, so it's why I'm not freaking out right now. If I lost my job tomorrow, I could weather 6 months of not. And then I've been poor my whole fucking life, other than up until a few years ago. So it was something that I changed late in life and just got on top of. It was huge.